How many of you with dry dirt or chicken juice would go to bed without washing your hands? You lay down, you pull that sheet up, you look at them, you're like, oh, I'll fix it tomorrow. And you just go to bed, right? Put your hands under your head like this, smear it all around. In Hebrews 10:22, it says, let us draw near to God with a sincere heart and with the full assurance that faith brings, having our hearts sprinkled to cleanse us from a guilty conscience, and having our bodies washed with pure water. Now, if you read ahead, if you're a part of our church family and you've read these verses already, then you would know right after James says to come near to God, he says to wash your hands and to purify your hearts. And what do we read? It's an exact parallel in Hebrews. Draw near to God with that sincere heart. And what's going to happen? He will sprinkle our hearts. He will sprinkle our minds from having a guilty conscience. He's purifying us. He says your bodies will be washed with pure water. He's giving a physical analogy to something that he wants to do spiritual. So the next command that James gives us in verse 8 is to wash your hands. Your hands represent your outside life, your outward life, your lifestyle. So what I believe James is saying is this: be diligent. Don't consider it for 10 weeks or even 10 days or even 10 hours or even 10 minutes. Be diligent to wash your hands now, to get rid of anything in your life that the Lord shows you that is interrupting your relationship with him. Anything in your life that is stopping the flow of the Holy Spirit. Anything in your life that you feel like would clog his purposes flowing in your life. Get rid of it and wash your hands now. See, I think sometimes we don't take this serious enough. Right? We feel like, listen, I'm following the Lord, so I'm full of joy, I'm full of happiness. That's great. But in a moment where you realize I'm being a friend of the world instead of a friend of God, and I haven't surrendered something to him, in those moments, we should be sober-minded. We should be alert. In fact, I propose to you that you don't actually even need to ask the Holy Spirit in this moment. You probably already know what you need to get rid of in your life. The Holy Spirit's probably already been speaking to you. So think about this. This isn't hard. We act like it's hard. Like, okay, well, I have to I'll put a limit on this app, or I have to separate myself from this friend. I have to stop watching that show. I have to block this number or block this website or throw this thing away. When we think of this, we begin to complicate it. Just picture this. If you were working outside one day in the mud, right? You didn't have gloves and your hands were just covered with filth. And they were dry by the end of the day. Have you ever had that, like that dry dirt all up in your fingernails and stuff? Or maybe you're like, I don't work outside. Okay, go to the kitchen then. Go to the kitchen. Maybe you're one and you were trimming the chicken before dinner. And now you have all that juice, that chicken juice, that gross chicken juice on your hands. How many of you with dry dirt or chicken juice would go to bed without washing your hands? I mean, picture yourself like hopping up into bed, you lay down, you pull that sheet up, you look at them, you're like, oh, I'll fix it tomorrow. And you just go to bed, right? Put your hands under your head like this, smear it all around. I hope I'm grossing you out. We would never do that in the natural, but we do it spiritually. We're willing to go to bed with dirty hands without doing business with God. I'm not talking about a heaven and hell issue. I'm talking about you're already following Jesus, and yet somewhere along the lines, your hands got dirty. And yet we're not taking it serious enough to get these hands washed. And James is like, wash your hands. I don't think James is mad at him at all. I think James sees redemption in all of this. He's being so clear, like you don't have to guess how to do this. Surrender it all to the Lord. He's saying, right? He said, we can walk through this. Submit yourselves to God. Resist the devil. Come near to him. He'll come near to you. Wash your hands. Adam, you can come up at this time. This fifth one says to purify your hearts. Now, this is a work that only God can do, but I believe that he's giving it as an imperative command because we have a role to play in it. we have to get before the Lord and say, God, would you purify my heart once again? So Jesus, I know that I'm right with you. I know I'm right with God. I know I'm headed to heaven, but I want this life to count. Like I'm sick of being whatever it is, miserable or angry or lost in my purpose, like whatever it is. So would you purify my heart? The pure heart will see God. The pure heart will understand the ways of the kingdom. The pure heart will hear the voice of the Lord more clearly. So we have to position ourselves. We have to be willing to stop everything else for just a few moments. Say, God, would you purify me once again? I love this in Psalm 51:10, where David's saying, create in me a pure heart, O God. Renew a steadfast spirit within me. I think sometimes we're nervous, like that if we say something like this in front of other Christians, or if we come forward, they'll think we're like way lost and addicted to something and like way off. No, every single day you can say that. So Jesus, pour out your spirit fresh on me and give me a pure heart. Give me a steadfast spirit so I follow you in every way, every day of my life. God, I don't want anything. I think we would all admit that. We don't want one thing in our life that is going to come between us and God. But we don't take time to do business with him. So we go to sleep with just a little bit of dirt, a little bit of chicken juice on our hand. We think it's okay.